as we learned, through our process, everything gets adapted the way the force is placed upon it. So if you want that right adaptation, you got to create it. And again, you can only create so much in the gym with what we have. And again, we're always fighting gravity. And again, that's always different. But
hello, and welcome to Think Fit, Be Fit podcast. My name is Jennifer Schwartz. I am your hostess and the creator of the Think Fit, Be Fit podcast network, which is a network dedicated to effective exercise. We offer 3 shows on one feed that are the intersection of exercise mechanics, human movement science, and critical thinking.
We really invite you to think differently about fitness on this entire platform of 3 shows. And that is to see things from multiple perspectives and gain a deeper understanding of how things really work and how those things can help you achieve greater fitness, health, and wellness. Today, I have a colleague and friend and innovator with me. Someone I am looking to that has completely changed my business and helped me break so many plateaus with myself and my clients. His name is Chris Verdi. He is the creator and I want to say patent owner, because I think that's so exciting, of the Core Restore training system. He's coming to us from Athens, Georgia. Hello, Chris. Thank you so much for coming back.
You're welcome, Jen. It's nice to be back, as always.
Please introduce yourself. If somebody didn't get our last episode from summer 2020.
Yeah, that was, oh, wow. A little over a year ago. Seems like an eternity with everything going on. But anyway, last time I was in New Jersey, so now I'm in Georgia. So there you go. Mm-hmm. But yes, I am owner of my own business, Core Restore LLC. I am a fellow MIT RX practitioner, and that's how Jen and I met. I'm also a trainer and love every part of health and fitness possible. I think both Jen and I are out of the box thinkers and come from our own places of discovery with our own bodies and our own issues. And through our own challenges have been taken on this road to go into health and fitness to pass along what we found with ourselves and our practices onto our clients. So I'm very happy to be back with Jen today to discuss where I am. And I'll just like to say this little thing too. She is the first person that bought my training system, which I say thank you very much. And I'm very thrilled and proud. And she's been awesome in the support of everything I've done so far. So I'll let Jen take it from here.
Thank you. I love having that title. I'm totally just excited every day to go to work and put this system to work. And that, that's really the motivation behind asking you to come back on this show. Because our first one wasn't missing anything, in my opinion. We went through, we went through muscle stabilization. We went through chronic pain. We went through the healing from back pain and all these different outcomes of clients you had been working with and pelvic floor dysfunction. So that episode did not lack anything. However, now that I'm integrating this system into my care and with my clients, I think it's a great time to revisit what people need to know before they start using the system. And I also want to conquer a big myth about core training in general. This is a fun topic for me. I think it's so great that we're able to share our knowledge and experience in showing people what's under the fast food bullshit of the fitness industry. And, I came across this really interesting guest that was on Joe Rogan recently. His name's Alan Leakowitz, and he's a religion and philosophy professor here in Virginia, actually. And he was talking about processed information versus processed food. And I was just like, oh, I feel that, because processed information is boiled down and just given it to us in these like palatable sound bites or, just munchies. And then we get accustomed to the munchies. And, when it comes to the work that we do, we see so much more to fitness and exercise than just these like, 36 best ab exercises that you have to do. That long list of exercise of especially the core training ones. This seems to be like the perpetrator of a lot of problems in the fitness education industry area. And so I am so glad to, one, show people how to do it differently. And now we can educate from our experience, from our perspective, that we see so much more in the body and in exercise. So anyways, I already did a whole solo cast on this. It was 40 minutes long. So you guys, I'm going to take a back seat here. Do you want to start with this big training myth that one muscle is more important than the other, or one exercise is more important than the other when it comes to working out our core or core training?
Right. Well, I'll first start off with, to me, it's like, it's about balance. And we know that it's never just one thing. And to think it's one thing is pretty simplistic. To blame it on, a lot of it's blamed on psoas or blamed on performance or your overactive glute max or whatever. But again, it's, that's a place to start, but it's certainly not a place to stay. And I think through the course of our work through MAT, through our course of incorporating MAT into our training practices and really seeing how the core is really not just your abs or, like everyone's concentrating on the abs. I want that, that 6-pack, and actually it's actually a 10-pack. But actually it's a 12-pack. But anyway, so I digress a little bit. But so when I started looking at the core restore, and for me, it was because it stems from my back fusion. So when I had a back fusion when I was a kid, once I had that, it really just literally destroyed the ability for my core to actually, or I would say my abdomen, the muscles within my abdomen to really develop. It really, that fusion allowed the strength away from my core. And that's where I end up having problem after problem after problem was really my ab muscles. And what were overworking for me was the back muscles. And that's where I could get big and strong, but I could never really connect with my core. So as I started working with MAT and as I started going through stuff and seeing some of my clients and myself, and I'm like, well, I think, anything that really attaches to any part of the spine is probably pretty much part of the core, because every muscle has some kind of role in every part of the movement structure. So to list it as a muscle causing everything is just too simplistic, and it's really not going to get you anywhere, and it's really going to focus you in the complete wrong direction. So, and that's what we learned with MAT, that we're looking for identifying muscle weakness. We're not looking for the pain, the tightness, all this kind of stuff. And the weakness actually causes everything. So how do you address those weaknesses? And we've addressed that with MAT and activation and all that good stuff, and that's great. And, it's a lot of work for us as practitioners, and, our clients are on the tables and they're sitting there. A lot of them are, as they learn the process, it's a process and it's something you have to engage in. Like, you're not just laying there like a massage. It's something you have to participate, because there's muscle testing. And again, the clients I like the most are the clients that like to learn about their bodies, like to talk about health, like to have conversations about how they can be better, because we only see them for a short amount of time that week or that month. So as I started going through it and started realizing as I was doing this work, I was having so many issues just trying to keep my body stable when working on clients. So then, I started going into this whole thing and trying to think of, what is actually like going on within my core, because I'm activating all my muscles, I'm getting activated and stuff, but I'm still having some issues. So that's where I started thinking, I'm like, okay, how can I actively do some of the stuff that we're doing on the table? Or how can I have the right stimulation to work within the stabilization characteristics of muscle? And so I'm very fortunate that my dad is a mechanical engineer. So I had him to bounce all my ideas off of, because, we're biomechanical engineers. we work with the body. My dad works with inanimate objects. So we started talking and stuff, and I kind of knew what I wanted. And through the process, I developed this pulley. This pulley gives the right stimulation for training the stabilization characteristics of muscle. So as I find I'm incorporating the core restore training system into my practice, like I'm getting it activated, I'm getting my clients feeling better with MAT. And as soon as I can start to train, I start to train them and kind of see what is actually from the table, like what they actually can do or not do. And it was pretty surprising with some of my clients that, I'm working on all this, I'm working on rotation, flexion, hip flexion, all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, some of the people are really having trouble connecting that motion, like actually doing the motion themselves. So that's what was really cool. And then I could start to see, as I started going through some of these main movements, I was getting real, I think, core stabilization really, really going, because now that I've had them activated, now I'm actually strengthening, really training those fibers to stay firing, because that's my goal. I want those fibers to fire as much as you can, because people will do stuff all the time to shut them down. I want to see how I can keep them going. That's where I think my practice has gone. And that's what's been really exciting. So to your point, and to some of your listeners' points, it's never one muscle. It really is any muscle that attaches to the spine. And for me, I have that little fusion from my sacrum to lumbar spine. So it's really anything that attaches to my hip. All of a sudden I have that as well. So I also have that as well. So I have a little added extra core stuff going on. And if I have anything going on within my hips, my neck, my trunk, my pelvis, it really, really throws me in more of a loop than, say, your average person. And I think that's where I, as a practitioner and studying the human body and movement, have really pushed myself to really figure out, like, how do I work with what I have, and how do I make those gains greater? And those gains have become greater when I'm actively doing a lot of motion, and then it translates in the gym, which is really fantastic.
Wow. Yeah, we come from that similar place of discovery and, working on things ourselves, but also having a framework to think about the body and how we see the body. So I do want to come back to, I have one comment, and I want to come back to direction of force.
Okay.
And what that means for like a core exercise, right? And so the one thing I did want to comment on was you said you had your fusion, right? L4, L5 into S1, right?
It was actually S1, L5. So I had one fusion, thank goodness.
Okay. Yeah. L5, S1.
Yes.
So I'm going to challenge the listeners here. If you know someone that's had a lower lumbar fusion or have one yourself, now picture your hips and back almost as the same joint. Is that, and so it's not just they are, I don't know what to say. If it doesn't sound like they're fixing anything, but they're fixating something to another part of your body to gain stability. And then they say, okay, strengthen your core, go, and so then the normal crunch. Okay. So let's go put ourselves in the gym visually and think about the spinal flexion that it takes to create a crunch, the beginning of a sit-up. Now, if you have that fusion, then this is a hip dominant motion. If you're trying to get any flexion almost at all, I mean, you'll get a tiny bit. So, I mean, I'm just kind of, you guys are listening to me working through something in my brain, and that's how I think. And I just think that is really interesting, and I wanted to share it. So let's go back to line of direction of force and exercise. We definitely have a big conversation there, because the core restore training system offers 360 degrees of resistance challenge to the user.
Right. And different angles of force. Yeah.
Yes.
As we learned, through our process, like everything gets adapted the way the force is placed upon it. So if you want that right adaptation, you got to create it. And again, you can only create so much in the gym with what we have. And again, we're always fighting gravity. And again, that's always different. But when I looked at, really trying to create this product or this training system, and I think a big thing really kicked in with me when back when I was in class doing the RX training internship, and Megan Labia was our teacher, and she had started talking about arcs. And we had talked about arcs before, but you can hear something a million times and then someone says it and it's like, boom, light bulb, all this stuff. And as soon as she was talking about that, it just made so much more sense to me because I was loading my stuff, more straight on with no arc. And I was like, and as soon as I did that, I really did change the game. So as I developed the training system, the pulleys slide up and down, the pulleys can come off. I'm always trying to get that right angle of force because you have to have that right angle of force for that true adaptation of what you want. And so that is key in training, especially for the stabilization characteristics, because as we know, it takes very little force to shut those down. And it takes too much force in a lot of ways, or the wrong direction of force that shuts that down. So we're trying to not shut it down. We're trying to keep that going and trying to keep that stabilization characteristics, increasing their ability to function and keeping us stable. Because again, with my fusion, I have all these little things all the time. And the more that I really get into what I'm doing, because, I spent the last 15, 14 years developing it. I'd say in the last 2 years has been when I really started doing my own research, because I had more time with everything that happened. So I had a lot more time to do. And then when I moved to Georgia, I don't have the luxury of seeing someone that does RX, except when I see Jenn once in a while. But then I had to really figure out, I want to keep my body as stable and as functioning as possible. And that was really my goal. And having that direct line of force is imperative. It's one of the things I talk about in my training. It's one of the things that are in my manual. And it's one of those things that you really have to kind of understand in order to get the result you want.
Yeah. And when you say understand, you mean understand that getting, I guess, a good line of force with the resistance, understand what of it? What do you mean?
Understand that's a good question. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that when, say, I line up my pulleys, which my training system is behind me.
There it is.
Right, there it is, with my skeleton and my body gear. So say I'm going to do trunk flexion, right? I guess the best thing I can do is by example, or at least tell you an example. So I'll have my body gear on. And then what I do is I load the pulleys here, a little bit below my shoulders here, from the back in an arc. So as I come down and into trunk flexion, that line of force is helping me create that movement. So I'm going with the move. So I'm lining up with the movement because because again, everything happens within a circle. So if I'm going to create that circle, I have to have that in a way so I can better understand the exercise. Because I can't tell you how many people I've trained when they try to flex their trunk, they just go out or they sit down because they're so stuck in extension that their trunk flexion is here. So there's all those things that you have to kind of work through to improve in order to get them to be able to do the exercise. So having the right, correct line of force really helps you create the exercise and the stimulation that you want for the exercise. So your client can feel that stimulation and understand that, oh, this is how I move into trunk flexion. And that's really one of the main goals of the Core Restore training system, is really to teach people how to move. And that's why I always say it's not about moving. It is about moving, but it's not about just moving. It's about how and what is moving that is so important. It's just like reading and writing. If we were taught this stuff as young kids, and like say we had PT courses, or not PE courses, and we had all these training, these learning how to move your trunk, how to move your pelvis, all that kind of stuff, we would be in a totally different state. We'd be so much more educated. And I think that's what you and I do all the time, as we are educating our clients about where fitness begins, because it's not about moving a bunch of weight. It's about how your body's actually moving, how that force is being adapted through your body. And is your body in a good position to actually absorb that force in a positive way? And that's, that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, no, I think, if I had to underline one sentence there, it was like, thinking, thinking about the direction of force as creating the arc, in relation to it. And like, that's the thing that can really, help help our joints just move better, because we know that there's something really special about giving people muscle, really precise muscle stimulation.
Yes.
And when they can feel that motion and perform that motion, that's the game changer, that you and I are seeing. The other thing is, I have to say something. This is going to make you laugh. Okay. You said Megan Laba. You said labia.
Oh, sorry, Megan. Well, we know what that is.
Oh, that is so funny. And then
I'm so bad with words and names. I always make up stuff and say.
Well, I know that as your friend, but like
I'm sorry, Megan. I'm so sorry. Hopefully she can laugh at it. But
anyways, so. And then I wanted to comment on another myth that I covered in our in the last episode, which is just called core training myths. And one of those is that I was talking about this one muscle not being better than the other, and one exercise being superior than another. And it made me think, like, all of us can only do what's available to our structure. And when it comes to this like lumbar area and pelvic tilting, so most of us know it as scooping your butt, or like tilting posterior or anteriorly with the pelvis, which also is spinal flexion, spinal extension. Those motions are so different on everybody, on kind of on a very structural level. Like, and that means like the height of, each vertebrae, to the disc health, to how much space is in between their ribs, and what different each component of the sacrum and the iliac, like all those can be different sizes, and therefore different motions available to that skeleton, to that operator, to that person. So, I just think, unless we're really, teaching someone what those motions are, how can we expect them to perform exercise with some, efficacy and effectiveness? And, and I mean, don't get me wrong, like, we have to meet people where they're at. I don't think perfect movement is the solution to anything. I'm saying, if you're trying to treat yourself and keep yourself moving, learning about this like motion, one by one, can be incredibly beneficial.
Sure.
We can compensate, of course, and it's so useful, but we just, there's just so much of that we can get away with if we're going to perform at a high level in the skeleton that we have, the one that we get.
I mean, I can't tell you how many people I work with that have no idea how to access a pelvic tilt. None.
It's true. Yeah, it's really
and that's basic movement.
Yeah.
That's squat, that's sitting, that's it's everything. It's coming up from a squat. It's everything that we do. And people have a real hard time with that. And that's one thing that's really, really exciting with the system, because you can really isolate. And then once you isolate, get people to actually do a motion. Then once you start to integrate different planes of motion within that one section or two sections or whatever, then it starts to be a game changer, because you see all these variations. And then we work to resolve those variations by getting you symmetrical again.
Yeah. Well, back to you just sparked something here.
Mhm.
Thinking about symmetry, not that I think, and this was in your training material, like, not that training for symmetry is the goal all the time.
No.
We have to train for what our body has.
Right. And I can give
And
you a perfect example of that with, if you like, I have a client that came in New Jersey, older gentleman, about 80 years old. And I started working him on my training system. And I'm like, well, his pelvis is not moving. No matter what I do is not moving, not any plane, not how I load or how I take it off, nothing. And I thought, I'm just going to meet him where he is. And all I started doing, so he came in hunched over and his gait was really short. And just by working within what he had, not worrying about changing any asymmetrical motion, just working with what he had, all of a sudden, by the end of the session, his wife is sitting there. She's like, John, you're walking straighter, your gait's longer. And that's all we did. I just met him exactly where he is. So 3 or 4 sessions later, I start to get the pelvis to move a little bit. So again, you're exactly right. I'm not looking for a perfect symmetry all the time, because that is not something that that is plausible with most people. But again, I hone in on it a little bit more because of my personal experience. Because again, if I'm off somewhat, I feel it big time. It's not something where I can ignore in my body. And that's why MAT spoke so much to me, because I didn't understand that when my pelvis is rotated and elevated and tilted and it's there and it's not moving anywhere or keeps going back to that spot, why do I keep getting hurt? Well, that's a reason that people do get hurt. I'm not saying it's always a symmetrical or asymmetrical reason, but again, it comes to force. It's like, if I want to produce more force in both sides of my movement, I want it as symmetrical as I can. Then I can build up the elasticity within that range of motion, so I can build more force to go into whatever position or whatever exercise I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, the true definition of stability is being able to get back to where you came from, basically.
Right.
So
and that's what I've been trying to do for X number of years since I was a kid.
Yeah, so I mean, that in one way we're training for stability, I'd say.
Oh yeah. So I can go out and do strength. That's what I love. I love strength exercises. I love full body exercises. And when I had the fusion, that took it away. It took it away. And so that has been my goal, and I'm definitely getting there, and I've done a lot. So it's very exciting.
That was part 1 of the second interview with Christopher Verdi, the creator of the Core Restore training system. Head on over to core-restore.com to check out the science behind the training apparatus, some success stories, and to contact them about one of the few remaining available apparatus, systems available. They will be creating more in the next year. However, they have already, they have a few left ready to sell and be installed in your rehab or fitness practice. So please do not hesitate to contact them. And they have been just so amazing in helping me integrate this into my business. So that is core-restore.com or email at info@core-restore.com. Also, if you are interested in staying on top of all the shows that we're producing and all the conversations that we're having, be sure to sign up for the newsletter at thinkfitbefitpodcast.com. If you want to hang out with us on live, we do a live every Monday for the podcast network over at my Instagram at Jennifer_Simone_Schwartz. And we also have the Think Fit Be Fit podcast network on social media at thinkfitbefit_podcast. We would be just so delighted to receive some more reviews on Apple. I know that you guys love this content. We get a lot of feedback on our social media. However, we are not getting that many reviews. So please do us a favor and tell us what you're learning. Tell us what you're enjoying.
even 3 words, hey, this is a great podcast, would be just wonderful to receive on the reviews for Apple. So anyways, I look forward to your questions on this one. I look forward to sharing more success stories on with my experience as a core restore training system operator and owner. But and if you have any questions in the DC area, we will be having an open house early in the year, but we also do have some availability to work with us in person on this incredibly innovative apparatus. So look forward to hearing from you and have a great week.